Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Caru News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News गांव से, संवाद सारोकार न्यूज, भारत न्यूज, भारत पोस्ट न्यूज, ज्ञान and Organ Donation India Foundation. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic, and today is a series that is Thought Leadership series. But before I will go on the our today's topic, I would like to inform you that today the world is observing Good Friday. Good Friday is a Christian holiday commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus and his death at Calvary. It is observed during Holy Week as part of the Paschal Teresium on the Friday preceding Easter Sunday and may coincide with the Jewish observance of Passover. It is also known as Holy Friday, Great Friday, Great and Holy Friday, also Holy and Great Friday and Black Friday. Media conference with Lal Goel wishes you a blessed Good Friday. Now coming to our main topic, that is the Thought Leadership series. Crisis moments create opportunity. Problems and crises ignite our greatest creativity and thought leadership as it forces us to focus on things outside the norm. Thought leadership is fundamental in business today and consists primarily of finding and sharing great information in a way that attracts and retains. Thought leadership is when a leader is leaders' thoughts are being used by leaders to lead others. Thought leadership is influencing a narrative by understanding what needs to be done. Thought leadership is the expression of ideas that demonstrate you have expertise in a particular field, area, or topic. A thought leader can be recognized as an authority in a specific field and whose expertise is sought and often rewarded. That can be an expert, a historical figure, or a wise person with worldly impact. Many strive to become a thought leader in their respective fields. It takes dedication, patience, strategy, and education. In this series, we will be asking straight questions and we expect a straight answer from our thought leader. And today's topic is startups, challenges and opportunities, and our thought leader is Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran is the former visiting professor IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the senior director of Don Bosco Group, Bengaluru. He is the founder of Dr. Sharan Consultancy, California, USA. He is the director of Aldo Private Limited, New Delhi. He has done his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in 1980. He did PhD in 1986. He started teaching and researching businesses and entrepreneurship since 1984. He published research papers in reputed journals, international seminar proceedings, and chapters in books of readings. He started academic administration phase as dean in 1997, rising to executive director, controlling management and engineering institutes in 2007. Her Highness Governor of Karnataka nominated Dr. Sharan to the Senate of Bangalore University in recognition of his distinguished academic contributions. He was visiting professor to Universities of Texas at Dallas from 2012 to 2019. He also visited Washington State University and President University, Indonesia on the invitation of the Dean Faculty of Business in 2018. He innovated and implemented a unique model to double the turnover with existing infrastructure in one accounting year. He is co-promoter of Institute of Family Business Management Society. He is honorary director of NCR Delhi-based high-tech B2B digital startup. He is also co-founder of OWGI Foundation, which promotes social entrepreneurship ventures. Welcome, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran on our show. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, you came on our show on several times several occasions and gave your thoughts, which were appreciated not only by the youth, but many faculties, the deans, academicians, they all appreciated and they requested us to give more and more time to Professor Saran and call him very frequently. Keeping in mind their views, we have to call you whenever you have time. And I am so thankful to you that you always obliged us by giving your time. Now, today's topic is startups, challenges, and opportunities. And today, as you know, it's a thought leadership series. It's a straight question which I'm going to put to you, and I expect a straight answer from you. So, my first question to you is, what is a startup?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Goel. It is a very special day, not because it is a very historic day, Good Friday. I extend all my greetings to the faithful. Thank you very much for the nice words. I'm particularly impressed by your research on what a thought leader is. It is an eye-opening set of statements that you have made. I'll try to live up to the standard set by those thought leadership things. I'm also very honored to be always with you. And you see, time is something which tells you a lot of things. And the reason I'm always being able to come to you is because there is no better value for me, for my time, than talking about significant topics like the one we have at hand today. So thank you very much for the honor and privilege extended. It is my privilege to be here with you. Now coming to the question, what is a startup? What is a startup? See, everybody thinks they know the meaning, they know the answer to this question. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I don't mean to bring anybody down by saying that one. All I mean to say is, more we understand about startups, better will be our own life and future, no doubt about it. Why am I saying this? Excuse me. Why am I saying this? What makes me make this bold statement? That by understanding what is a startup, what is a startup, my own life becomes better. Okay? A startup is a very special kind of organization in human society. Let me repeat it. A startup is very special kind of organization, a special kind of entity in human society. What makes me say so? You see, look at a business person. He can have only two situations. Either family, friends, relatives, strangers have started a company and he comes on board or she comes on board midstream. That's situation one. I think that is clear. What is the alternative? He or she is starting from a scratch. So a startup will not be part of the first one directly. Indirectly, an existing organization can be the mother, the sponsor, the protector, the creator of a startup. This is important to understand. Then, starting from a scratch means I did homework. I found a business opportunity which has promise in it. Even then, it will not become a startup. It will be one of the bigger set we call new venture. So existing venture, new venture, you understand? New business. A startup has to have two more essential qualities, Mr. Goel. The first of them is the founder and the business idea. together must be scalable first. The second one is the founder must have management quality separate and special for making this scaling up happen most efficiently possible humanly. If these two attributes are there, a new venture, which we loosely call a startup, will truly become a startup. If any of these attributes are missing, you may call it a startup, but it is not a startup, strictly speaking. So I'm very happy you asked this question right at the outset. When I think of a startup, I think of a new venture which has the founder, and if there is more than one founder, the whole set, having the capacity to scale it up. And scaling up in layman's language is nothing but rapid growth. And when we say rapid growth, we are not saying 8%, 10%, 15%, 20%. We literally mean 3-digit rate of growth year on year. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran, for giving the straight answer. Now, my question is how any entrepreneur or anyone can assess that he is eligible for a startup. He can start a startup or he can venture for the startup.
Very, very difficult question to answer, because the answer is so clear, we miss it. Chirag tale andhera. If I control my ego, which is very difficult for a founder, by definition, I have to fight the whole world because everybody is saying this cannot be done. This will not be profitable. This is not for you. How will you do it? In the face of all that, I need my ego to fuel me to fight all the odds. So the question is, how do I know if I'm the entrepreneur? Well, we must now today in the digital age rely on the spirit of experimentation, forming hypothesis, getting validation, putting into practice, learning more, and never giving up, because no startup, except very rare one in a million, begins as a true startup by the two qualities I said. All the startups begin as new ventures, and some point in the life of the new venture, the founders acquire the human qualities which I mentioned necessary for converting the new venture into a startup. They may do it solo, or they may hire a person, and together the chemistry is such that this quality comes in. So therefore, I said the answer is simple. It is so clear, people will see it but miss it. So I am articulating it for everybody today with your assistance on the Thought Leadership Program, that we at Dr. Sharan Consulting California struggled for last 12 years to exactly define what is a startup founder, who is eligible for it, and who is not. So we have made a standard test. We call it pre-qualification test, so that we know who is a true, genuine, proper startup founder and who is a mere new business startup. Nothing derogatory here. Both need our salute, but the difference is there. Thank you.
Okay, as you have mentioned about the eligibility, now the question comes about the age. Now, Generally, the age which people say that it is for youth or below 40 or something like that. But what about those? Because as you know, the ideas can come at any time in the life, maybe above 60, above 70. Rather, the saying is that older you become, wiser you become. So, is there any age limit for the startups, Professor Saran?
Uh, again, today you are at your tricky best, and you are putting all the googlies right in the first over. Very good. If I look at the data, hidden in the numbers is the fact that age is not important variable. The ability to grow it rapidly is the variable. And therefore, what we find is there is somebody called Steve Jobs, who at age of 22, 23 starts Apple and grows it rapidly. There is somebody called Bill Gates, and he does it. All these Silicon Valley names, who is who, and all over the world who is who, are younger set. And that's from where this notion comes. Now that you have asked it and you are expecting a straight one, also let me tell some of the inner feelings which I have. In one of the villages, a guy was getting married. The girl's side people put a condition that we will accept this relationship only when the marriage party comes. Nobody above the age of 60 will be brought in the barat. And they had agreed. And you know the story, I'm not narrating it. The girl side people, when the barat reached, asked a question which younger people could not field, could not answer. Then they said, give us some time. They went back. They had smuggled the experienced old septuagenarian and asked him. He told the answer. They went back and told. And the girl side says, you guys have cheated. You have brought an old person. So here, what I will say, those of our viewers who are seriously interested in mothering, fathering, and uncling a true startup, they should have a experienced individual, whether the age is 22 years or 92 years, notwithstanding. In our founding team, either you yourself are that individual. If you are not, please continue your search to find that person. Call him co-founder, call him mentor, call him consultant, call him whatever role you want to, but do have that resource. Mark my words, have that resource. Without that, you will neither become a startup nor become a successful one, which we'll talk later on, what distinguishes a successful from a failed one.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. So there are hopes even I can also go for a startup at this age, the last age of my inning. Anyway, thank you very much. Now, my next question to you is, why do startups create so much excitement, especially those who are very ambitious? And it's such a word today. Every
simple. It is A connects to B kind of a situation for me, Mr. Goel. If a startup is the one which is growing rapidly, two things will follow. Fantastic wealth creation, creation of capital will happen. The equity, so to say, in technical language, will be growing in a fantastic, intoxicating manner, so to say. The one is, when the work is expanding, you will be creating direct and indirect livelihood for many deserving people who had very little proper employment opportunity in the existing economy without the startup. I hope I'm very clear. Let me emphasize this. The wealth will be created and it will have ripple effect. So a successful startup starts next phase of his business career by becoming an angel investor. When that person succeeds from experience, then that person becomes a venture capitalist. These are the different financing things. That is the reason every ambitious person is attracted to this one. The second reason is somebody like you, Mr. Goel, somebody like me, Mr. Goel, have limited business opportunities in the existing universe. But in a startup universe, as I said, we can either be direct promoters ourselves and found one, or we can be feeding the requirement of resources for the existing startup founder who has the wisdom to seek you out, to search you out, to seek me out, search me out, and involve us in their business. And look at it, we are better employed, so to say. I'm using the word employed in a broadest possible sense of the term. We are doing exactly the work which Maslow would have said in his pyramid of needs, self-actualization. So whether it is my grandson who is 29 years old, when he joined a startup in Pune in November last year on my instigation and motivation, this month itself, he has been made team lead and he has been given 15% increment, Mr. Goel. Personal experience, not a story which I heard from somewhere. On top of it, this young boy of 29 had been given equity in the ESOP form. And that, if he works at his level best of managerial capacity, this boy will be sitting on a neat pile of expected, as of today's valuation, at a capital saving of 1.2 CR. You see, at the age of 33, this boy will be financially free, independent, to do all the best thinking and contribution for the rest of his life. These are the reasons which attract the most ambitious people to a startup universe.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saran. It's a really very exciting field. Now, you have used the word scale up. But experience says that, and you say the scale up means growth of not 8, 9, 10%, but 50, 70, 80, 100% growth. But the experience says that the startups, which are existing startups, their profitability is nowhere seen in the first at least 2-3 years. Can you just enlighten us?
Very, very complex issue here. It connects with what we said in the beginning. Every new business is not a startup. Every new venture entrepreneur is not a startup founder. Keep this in mind and your question can be answered very precisely. The reason that scaling up becomes the defining characteristic is the wealth creation comes from a concept called product market fit. If a startup founder truly understands product market fit, then this rate of growth happens. But remember this, new venture has a different life cycle and life stages, which, except very rare academic institutions, very rare set of business people, do not see the difference. I will say that the startups phase 4 stages. And those 4 stages, the first one lasts for 3 years roughly. And that is when you will not even see much of an organization. Definitely there is no formal organization in this phase. And this is called exploration or R&D phase, research and development phase. This is the period in which whatever you are spending, you don't have any revenue coming for it. So therefore, by definition, profit or loss is an equation equal to revenue minus expenses. Expenses column only is there. There is no revenue column. So this is this. And this is where the true test of a startup founder is. That a startup founder who is going to become the next Steve Jobs or, Larry, this person knows that it is up to me to pivot during the R&D phase. Pivot is a technical term. Make dramatic changes. And these dramatic changes are all links in the product market fit chain, which I mentioned to you. I hope our viewers are listening very carefully. We are talking about something which will not be there in the books. It will be not in the existing journals and textbooks in libraries. And very few people have the experience. So in this single question of yours truly makes our conversation a thought leadership. The thing is, remember to worship product market fit. And today, if time permits, we'll talk a little bit more of it when it comes different aspects of it. This is the reason why you see in the first 3 years, there is no profit, because only investment expenses are happening and revenues are not coming. Today, fortunately, to give encouragement to people, day before yesterday, I just finished an agreement with a very young person. He's not even 30 now. He wants to get into fintech space, and he came with a proposal to take me on as a co-founder. So see, practical thing is that you and I are still in demand for co-founder space. That is aside. Now, the reason I came in is, in our conversation at this one point in time, I said, look, we develop the product only on paper. Once I told, a software comes in 3 stages. First stage is architecture. Second stage is design. The third is the code. So we will develop ours on architecture stage, and that we will use for the design stage. Architecture one, as I mentioned in my last business incubator program, will keep at our intellectual property like Coca-Cola family keeps it in lock and key. That we will not tell our customer. The second one, we will take it to the potential users of that fintech software and ask them to pay for the coding and development. So you see, my R&D will be compressed to the number of weeks and months I need to have the architecture clear in our head. I have the technical know-how. That other young man also has technical know-how. He has business acumen, I have business acumen. So we are going by the satellite communication model here. Dr. Sharan Consulting advocates this model. Satellite communication, what happens is, to cover the whole earth, you need, say, 18 satellites positioned differently. The satellite communication companies deploy 54 satellites, Mr. Goel. The reason is they want 300% assurance that the communication link will not break down. So in our model, we are putting 200% redundancy. He has exactly the same competencies which I have in a different flavor. And we are going to make this miracle that the gestation period, R&D period, will be compressed to a few months and it will be paid. And you will see it become profitable right from the first year of inception. And we will not have become a formal organization. We plan to incorporate it when we start hiring people. Before that, we don't need to incorporate, 2 of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It definitely will be a new thing and a unique thing if the profit will come in the very, very first year, because generally the break-even point is after 3 years, as you have mentioned earlier. Thank you very much, Professor Saran. Now my question to you is it true that Indian startups failure rate is 90%? If yes, then what is the reason why so much failure rate that out of 100, 90% startups could not succeed, they failed, and only 10% could succeed, and out of 10 also, I think there is some percentage which could not cross 5 years or failed at that time or after 5 years. What is your take in this on this?
Very respected organization. You know the name. Everybody in the country knows IBM. So they have a research wing, knowledge wing, and they did the study of Indian startups. And they came up with the authentic finding that in India, in the last 15 years, the failure rate has been 90%. For a moment, pause and think here what is happening. Those 9 founders have wasted so much of financial capital. They have wasted so much of their near and dear ones' confidence placed in them, and they have shaken their own confidence. That's why this question is important. Now, if this is the truth, there has to be a reason. And the most important reason, Mr. Goel, is very simple. Take 2 children and give them a question. Where is potato coming from in your house? All right? And this child, number 1, answers to you, simple uncle, you don't know, it comes from the big bazaar. That's one. God bless if this fellow is ambitious and is attracted to a startup universe and does found a company because he is heading in the direction of joining the IBM data point of 90% failed startups. The other student was told the same thing in the class. Where does potato come from? It comes from Big Bazaar because it was a class on retailing. Then there was a course on production. And there they said, every commodity is manufactured either in the fields or the farms or the mines or the waters and God's wide earth. Either it is manufacturing or service. And so this boy says, the potato, where does it come from? It comes from the Rambhai Kisan in Ramnagar. This boy, when goes to founding a space, he will be 10%. Okay? Many ifs and buts are there. I'm making a very complex issue very simple. So before people, viewers accuse you and me for oversimplifying in the name of state answers, let me tell you this. It's a beautiful thing. You keep on telling you are not much educated. I keep on telling myself, despite all my education, I know so few things, so many things I don't know. So we are in the same basket, ignorant old people. Okay, we know this one. Take one large number, 1 crore, let us say. Multiply it with another large number, another crore, you say. So it is crore by crore, very large number, and keep on repeating in Mr. Goel for 1 lakh times. These are the decisions. Each multiplication is a decision. So 1 lakh correct decisions made. You understand this much? 1 crore decisions made correctly by the founder, and then multiply this beautiful number with 0. Aryabhatta invented this 0. Which shouldn't you imply? What will be the total? It will be a big 0. This is what happens. So many best decisions are made by the founders in different stages, in different fields, required by a startup to be a truly rapidly growing institution. And then suddenly one slip happens and it all comes down crashing. Okay. And most often that 0 is in the domain of ethics. Hopefully some point in time today, we'll talk about entrepreneurial ethics. That error kills it all. So those 90% failures have either personal ethic failure or business ethic failure. One of the two must be there. My suspicion is that. That is the reason why 90% fail. So this completes the answer. Thank you for giving me the time and the freedom to answer in fullest scope of this question. I hope our viewers will learn from this and be on guard. Be on guard. Human beings keep on making mistakes, but be on guard. The moment you are on guard, you will leave the company of 90% failed ones and you'll move to the 10%. This is what we are advising those people whom we are mentoring in our incubator.
Dr. Saran, you have just mentioned the personal failure and ethical failure. Can you just highlight?
You see, the world of ethics is very muddy today. The same thing one person does and no consequences happen to that person because he is very well connected, very powerful. Whereas the same thing another person does and pays very heavy prices. So this is the personal position of the two individuals in society. That influences which 90% will fail and which will not fail today. The second side is ethics. And here I'll put a very simple prescription. Allow me to do this. And that is, if you promise something to someone, whether it is your co-founder, whether it is your investor, whether it is your customer, whether it is your employee, please keep it to the best of your ability. And if you find in a position where you cannot keep it, be the first one to go and say, you are not in a position. What can you do? Will a simple sorry help or some other are there? We all operate in the world of business on the concept of contract, Mr. Goel. You know this as a businessman. And this is what I'm saying. If I honor my contracts and if I'm not in a position to, I should be the first one to go and say to the contracting party, my difficulty, and settle it as quickly as possible, not run away from that situation. These are the two things of personal, and these two are connected together. You see, the kind of person you are, that is the contract and approach to contract you will have. A startup founders must note it very carefully. Their reputation is built contract by contract. Thank you.
Okay, I will come to this question again in the later segment because I have something which I observed, but I would like to take it afterwards. Now, my next question is, what is more important, the idea? Because generally people say that the startup, the entrepreneur, he always have a vision or an idea for a particular business, or financing, which is more important for the success of a startup, Professor Saran?
Sir, this is the best googly you have thrown. If I say idea is more important, you will pounce on me, I'll be out. If I say financing is more important, umpire will declare me out. So God save me. You see, if the idea is convincing to the person who is extending his capital to me, either as angel seed capital, round A capital, series B capital, the person is not financing the idea, but financing the person's ability to make this idea pay. So it is neither the idea nor the financing, but the thing which connects the two together. You see, you want to start a jewelry business. I want to start a jewelry business. We have the same idea, Mr. Goel. We go to pitch and you get funded, I don't get funded. Why? Because you have a business model which connects the idea to profits. that attracts. So if a financer is looking only at the idea and parting with his money, like many venture capital companies have done and burned their finger in the past. It is littered with those cases. People were, in love with the idea, both the founders and promoters and the investors. And that is the whole story of the big bubble bust of the tech era in 99, 2000, 2001 period. So my answer to you is, it is neither idea nor financing which is the most important, but the one which is the business model, which has idea on one side and financial potential on the other side, connected. Okay. If financing has happened solely based on idea, it will be destructive for both of them. Capital will be gone, enthusiasm, ambition, everything of the founder will be gone. It damages both ways. Bad thing to happen. So my answer is, thank you for asking this one, but never be, swayed by just the business idea. Just look at how it will be proof of concept, we call it, and how will the proof of concept transform into business model. So idea, then you put it through processing, proof of concept you put it to more processing, you get a business model, put it to more testing. Is it getting few customers only excited, or it is getting a large number of them excited? If the answer is to go put your money there in that, this is what we are doing at Dr. Sharan Consulting, the investing arm. This is what we are going to do. Find which of the milestones they have touched or for which they have the capacity and a convincing plan to move from point A to point B. This is a secret.
Okay, but Professor Dr. 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 if I take your words, it means the failure of startups in India is not the failure of the promoter or the lack of finance, but it is the lack of due diligence done by the investor while becoming the seed investor and putting their money in the startup. Because what you say, the idea might be good, finance is good, but the business model and the time of financing and implementing everything. So it means the seed investor is not doing their due diligence properly. They are just swaying away with the wind, wherever the wind is going, that these types of startups is the future, without seeing either they are not doing the due diligence of the promoter, or they are not doing the due diligence about the financing module of that particular business model of the startup. So it means again, the seed investors are venturing in a fool's paradise. What you say about this, Professor Dr. 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔?
Thank God I got a chance to tell you what is most important here in the startup universe. The guys are very smart. You bet. The founder side people are very smart, clever, and the funding side people are very smart, very clever. And then if you say that they move to fool's paradise, you see we are entering a contradiction. No. They have more brain to go to a paradise populated by fools. These people are in a different world.
Okay, I will change. In it's a fool's paradise over a smart paradise.
Yes. They want to go to the over smart paradise. Every day I see news items, you see news items of that over a smart paradise, people doing over smart things. And you know what the consequence is? Some innocent people who don't know ABCD of the startup universe are giving their money to people who are in the game business of a startup. And in the game business, what happens is we create a beautiful bubble, attract people, and then run away from responsibility. This is a primary question of ecosystem enforcing acceptable behavior. And today, regulators are not doing it, and people are not doing it. Let me come here very simple. Very rich venture capitalists get very expert people for valuation, and then they give money to people. I won't name any organization here for ethical reason. We'll follow that in our thought leadership thing. But I see this one happening. And you see, everybody knows, nobody says. So let me come back here to the basic where we started from, Mr. Goel. We said that is it the founder or the investor who has not done the due diligence? I just mentioned here, there is a third party who has to do due diligence. Society has entrusted that with that. Government regulators and courts of law and justice, these two are the ones who promulgate good practice, good behavior in the business. Coming here, before you lose interest in the issue, remember there was a story you heard, or I'm telling you for the first time, a teenager was accused of murdering one of his parents, and he was presented before a judge, and judge says, how can you do this heinous thing? The people who brought you in this world, how could you kill one of them? He says, first time I stole the pencil from the classmate. If this parent of mine had punished me, today I will not be sitting before you. Okay? So there are countries in the world, Mr. Goel, who believe in promoting businesses where retail investors will lose money, whether they are angel investors, whether they are venture capitalists or any other denomination, crowdsourcing or anything. So mark my words, the answer is yes. Due diligence by everyone involved in funding the startup is the basic requirement. And if you don't have, you must have a respected, responsible organization, which today we lack. And we are trying to fill that need through our pre-qualification test. Those we pre-qualify, they will have that attribute.
Professor Saran, what we are seeing in the last few years, because the startups have come in last few years only, that the problem which the startups are facing about the exit plan, because they never make an exit plan, especially for the seed investor or Series A or Series B investor. Now, do you think at the time of starting a startup, one should be very clear about the exit plan to be given to the seed investors or the for the next Series A, etc. Although experience also says that after 3 years, as you have mentioned, the series at the time of Series A, the picture was quite because there was no break even, as you said, the 3 years is the gestation period. So the Series A investor could not assess or do the proper due diligence, and they came in the trap. At that time, the seed investors take the advantage, they take their money out, but the Series A fellow came in the trap, and they could not get their money value back. And that's why the failureness of the startups the time period is about 5 years, 4 to 5 years, when this Series A comes, because at the time of Series A, the equity increases drastically, though the ratio per earning per share reduce drastically, and that's why the startups could not succeed. Do you think, again my question to you is, it is because there is no clear roadmap for the exit plan of not only seed investor, but for the series A, B, C, and then only the startups can be successful? Or do you think it is all hypothetical?
It is not hypothetical, and it's a very vital issue that you are raising. Why it is vital is what you call exit plan. At Dr. Sharan Consulting, we call harvesting plan. I come from an agriculture background, so that word appeals to me. So every founder must have the most ambitious harvesting plan for himself and his financing partners. On the day he says, all right, I'm going to start and my life is dedicated to this work. That day itself, this contract, unwritten contract is signed with myself as the founder and you as the investor, that I will have an attractive enough harvesting plan for you. That contract is created then. So it is not hypothetical, it's practical. And we hold at Dr. Sharan Consulting very sacrosanct, perhaps the most sacrosanct one at that. Now, I mentioned pivoting. Every time you come across an insurmountable barrier, what do? Like water of Ganga coming from Himalayas to Bay of Bengal, on the path you encounter very large boulders. So you work slowly around the boulder, wherever a path is. This is called pivoting. And you keep on pivoting so that the initial contract which you had, most sacrosanct one, that I'll offer you a harvest attractive enough. This is more a matter of intention of the founder and more a matter of due diligence of the investor. Otherwise, cut your losses as investor and be done with the person. You see, in life, you also, if proper harvesting is not looking viable to you, either the capacity is not there in the founder, you found out, you revise your stake and cut your losses and walk out. But if the harvest is there, pivoting is happening. Only when pivoting happens, harvesting can be actualized. It is actually the most ambitious things, measurable thing. What harvest plan did you achieve? That's the measure of how much of our ambition you achieved, which I mentioned. So the conversation we have had so far, this answer becomes understandable. This is very important point, Mr. Goel. Our viewers must keep that in mind. Okay, it is possible. Not only founders, they may be over a smart universe, dreamers. No, you are not at the mercy as investor with them. Your due diligence doesn't happen one time. It is a continuous thing. Every day you check on this person. Has he changed his stripes? And has he become now the operator in the startup universe? There are many operators and the world is like that. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody has right to live the life the way they live. I don't pass value judgments here. I only point out this is the reality and let us tailor our own everyday role and decisions, keeping in mind the reality which is there.
Professor Saran, we have seen that in USA, whenever the investor invests in the startups, they try to set up certain guidelines, or sometimes even they want someone to come on the board as a mentor to the startup. Do you think or do you advocate that a mentor should always be there? Because we know that today I may have a good idea, but I may not be successful for many things, managing the financing, execution of my startups, ideas, etc., etc. So do you think all the startups, although already in the beginning you have mentioned some elderly pupil, elderly wise pupil means the mentor. So do you think all startups, because our worry is the main challenge today is the 90% failure. It's not a small thing. Just imagine the hard-earned money of the seed investor or the Series A investor. It's going in the drain. Can if the either the regulations with the regulations or the investor, the seed investor insist in India that please take one mentor in your organization who will check up. Like in other countries, they put a CEO in the startup. Let the CEO will do the execution of the project honestly. Do you think that may curtail the failure rate in India? What do you say about this, Professor Sir?
I wholeheartedly say yes. It will curtail the failure rate of startups in India, no doubt about it. Little bit more to re-emphasize the point. I have already mentioned my father was a doctor, and I have told many experiences. Here, one experience is very valid. One patient came, he treated the person for 2 days, and it became inpatient. The person was admitted to the ward, and that is where he was. When at the end of his second day visit to the hospital in the evening, he came back. Then, he calls the relative and says, "You take it to the district hospital." And he wrote a referral letter that I have treated this one, I'm referring to this one. Most of the mentors lack either the confidence that their reputation won't be dented if they refer to a better hospital. Because most of my father's colleagues did not do this, thinking that what will the patient's family think? I don't know how to treat a patient. So these are the two things. If we overcome this, our failure rate definitely will come down dramatically, Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Professor Saran. Viewers, today I am sure that it is such an enlightened program which is going on. The ideas, because people, especially the youth, wants to come out with the startup ideas. Incubators are there, but like we have seen in Mahabharat, Abhimanyu, people tie up with an incubator. But after some time, they feel, oh, these things are so small. These are very easy. We can do ourselves. And they leave the incubator halfway, or they are not implementing what they have learned from the incubator. And that's why the failureness. I think it is my view. What do you say about this, Professor Saran? Do you endorse these views?
It is very true. I endorse you, because my father cannot treat a patient if he does not come to the hospital. There was possibility, there was system that during monsoon time, the patient could not be brought, and therefore they called father to the house. This was called answering the call, doctor's call. Either way, you see, the initiative is from the user side, the founder side, the beneficiary side. So it is their responsibility. I fully agree. If they do this one, if they remain modest in this one single aspect, that God never made anybody omniscient. Just find the right people for the right decision, and God will bless you for doing that.
So according to you, one should follow them thoroughly, and then only they can be successful. Thank you very much. Now, my next question to you is, what are the biggest challenges for the success of startups?
Let me tell the mother of all biggest challenges. And that is, look at those two boys. The one who said potato comes from Big Bazaar, because he is very happy just answering the questions of life with partial knowledge of retailing only, not production, farming, or manufacturing, or mining. The other boy did not stop, explored the link, causal link. So this is the biggest challenge, believing in the four causes theory of Aristotle. My profit comes from good organization. If I don't have good organization, profit will not come. Good organization comes from my taking the right decisions in planning, organizing, staffing, motivating, and controlling 5 functions of management.
Okay.
And these 3 things comes from someone teaches me or I learn on my own initiative. So self-development, correct? So this is the biggest challenge. The founder having aptitude for self-development of this kind. I'm not talking about developing your tennis skills or developing your dating skills. Those are important life, but this is not our focus today. For a startup, self-development necessary is management for founders. A startup founders, by definition, is our intellectual property. And we emphasize that is the biggest challenge we found. That gap is the biggest challenge. And we know how to fill it. But again, the patient has to come. प्यासा कुएं के पास आना चाहिए और प्यासा कुएं को बुलाए अपने पास. The Muhammad should go to the mountain, or he should realize he cannot go there. He is too limited, frail. So he requests the mountain to come. Either of the two is equal in this case. And I urge everybody in the startup universe, whether they are mentors, whether they are coaches, they are co-founders, they are founders, they are founding team members, they are customers, they are investors. Everybody should be united on this point. Equip the founder to make the best founder management decisions. It is in everybody's interest. It is a win-win situation. If only one message I want to hammer into our viewers, this is this one. Respect and recognize the value of founders' level of managing decisions. Thank you.
Professor Saran, I still I am worried or concerned about the 90% failure. Do you think, apart from the challenges which a genuine investor, the founder is facing, the main reason of the failureness can be attributed to the intention of the founder? Because we have seen recently the news items, but it is very common from the very beginning that once the money, and which in other words we can say the free money, because as you mentioned that a 29-year-old your grandson got so much money. Otherwise, at your time when you were doing service, do you ever thought that you can have this much money when you are only 29 years old? It was not possible at our time. But now, when that big fat money comes in the account of the founder, and if his intentions are not good, if he spend, or I will say he not only spend, rather he waste the money in all those expenditures which are not productive for the startup or not in line with the project, like purchasing big bungalows, big cars, foreign traveling, etc., etc., etc. So do you think that will also attribute in a very big way for the failureness rate in India about the startups? What do you say about this, Professor Saran?
This is very tragic aspect that you have raised. Let me address it very systematically. If a young person is attracted to a BMW, if the young person is attracted to a villa on a half-acre plot, if that person is interested to nightlife in Thailand, and so on, so forth. And the person concludes a startup is the vehicle to get to all these destinations. Then you can be sure all the people who are facilitating that, they are sharing the intention of hoodwinking somebody or the other. Aristotle said contradictions don't exist, and by God, was the man right 2,500 years ago. And therefore, we are sure intention is tainted. Intention is tainted, and everything follows from there. And I do not think anybody can say, I did not know honestly. They all know, and they all are gaming it. Now, your main question is, don't I think it will impact the other founders? Yes, sir. You are very right. Imagine yourself to be a bright engineer who got gold medal from one of the IITs, top IITs. There are 20 of them, top 5. Okay. And when you watch this, how hard will it for you will it be to have personal ethics, which we discussed a couple of minutes ago? It will be very difficult. You must be very unusual young man to check the temptation. Everything is going for you. You have the brains, you have the connections, you have the reputation. You could do it. So only rarest of the rare are the ones who check this temptation of tainting their intention. And that is the reason why 90% fail. It is not now a black box. We know the reason why it happens. Right now in our thought leadership conversation at this point in time, I looked at the clock to mark the moment. This is a hypothesis, Mr. Goel. We haven't tested it. Someday maybe we will do proper research. We know the research method, how to test it. Even if we don't test it, the anecdotal evidence is, you are right, it's difficult for those honest, sincere, committed, true founders not to lose their morals and morality.
So according to you, Professor Saran, a startup is like a life of a man. If you control your those indris, what we say in Hindi, then only you will be successful in your life. Similarly, in a startup, if you control your temptations and if you be like Arjun, keeping his eye on the eye of the that fish and strike the arrow, then only you will be successful. So according to you, it is not easy. It is a tapasya. It is a meditation even to run a startup. It is not for everyone. It is only for those who really wants to do something systematically, honestly, without having any fraudulent ideas. What you say about this, Professor Saran?
I couldn't agree more with you, Mr. Goel. Yes, it is a tapasya. And the reason it is tapasya is because, as you mentioned, I alone have the power to check my indris. My religious guru may be there, my parents may be there, my best friend may be there, my bankers may be there, my investor may be there. They can only suggest to me, but I have to do the checking of the indris in the setting of this one. To motivate my young viewers to check their indris, let me say this. A moment ago, we said, from Himalayas, Ganga flows and then faces huge obstacles in the way, and then it finds a bypass that we call pivot. So there was a Khan movie which says that अगर कोई चीज शिद्दत से चाहो तो सारी कायनात उसको पूरा करने में लग जाती है. Here the metric is, if the founding team, each of them, check their indris, then that is like equivalent to want something with fullest of your will. And then the pivots emerge in the founding team. And that is where we as Dr. Sharan Consulting are selling. And that is, by God, do this tapasya. Without this, you have no way to get the pivots which you need emerging in the team. In the higher domains of consciousness, Mr. Goel, things are happening at a cosmic level. Meaning thereby, you go to sleep, Devi comes in your dreams, your deity comes in your dreams, whichever religious denomination you believe in. And so to say, in the matter of metaphor and example, that person inspires you to go talk to the founding team members in a particular way, and the pivot emerges. And the Ganges keeps on flowing. She does not end there. So a startup does not join the 90%. So it is very true. I agree fully with you. We have to control our indris to perform this tapasya called a startup founding.
Okay. Now, what is the most common reason for mistakes by founders? What we have assessed is about the ethical and all those things, or even the exit plan. But any other common reason which you think is the mistakes which founders are doing, so that they are joining that 90% club?
The most common reason, and here it is a subjective view, so forgive me for that. The subjective view is, at some point in time, when the struggle is very hard, I lose heart and decide to compromise with my efforts. I know that if I have been awake for last 3 days, if I kept awake for one more day, one more night, chances are I will see the pivot. But after 3 days of a struggle, and then the thought strikes me, what if 4th day also it happens? No, this is the most common reason. To a true founder, this luxury is not given.
Okay.
If you choose to be a mother, then you can't say that I will give brandy to the baby so it sleeps for the night and I'll sleep for the night. No.
Okay. Okay. Now we have spoken lots of things about the challenges. Let's come to the success. Is there something common among successful startups? Is the 10% club?
Yes, there is. And this one, I can say with fullest confidence I have from my personal experience, from my self-study. We believe there is one thing common to all of them. Okay? And like this software I mentioned, there are 3 levels of it. The solution architecture, the solution design, and the solution proper itself in code. Mr. Goel, excuse me, I will not answer the question at the architecture level. That is our bread and butter, our livelihood at Dr. Sharan Consulting. The most common reason is just this one. A person in the founder team is always reminding, if you plan this, what kind of person do we need in the organization to make it happen? Then a third person says, when that person is making it happen, like Ganges, it will find the barriers. How will we reward that person? How will we encourage that person? How will we extend moral support to the founding team member so that that person applies himself or herself? These 3 things are common in all those successful ones. I have not seen one which did not do this and succeeded. So obviously, when my father was asked to perform a post-mortem in the college to learn anatomy, then if he cut a body and found an organ, then he knew it is a human organ. If it was not there, then he knew that this may be the cause of death. So similar way, what we are saying here is, when we do the postmortem of the 90% failed ones, I can say with 100% guarantee to you that this interlinkage is known and practiced by the 10% successful ones. No miracle here, no magic here, no surprise here. It is now open secret, but only thing is there is a closed secret at architecture level.
Okay.
And at design level.
Now, next question to you is, are opportunities for a startup ready-made?
Oh my God. If you are very lucky to be born with a silver spoon with the modification for the startup, where the silver spoon is a team of people approaching you, and you are the last competency needed to make it a successful one, then it is ready-made for you. Understand carefully. There were 5 things needed for the success of that startup. You are not the first one. For you, then it is not ready-made. You are making it. But if you have the 5th one, if you say, my opportunity was ready-made, you have a reason. So if we know the context, Mr. Goel, in which you are asking, then we have to say, it is yes or it is a no. I hope I'm clear. Okay?
Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
All the factors which are required in the lifetime are not initially visible, but one person is searching them and making others search for it. That person is the first one. For that one, it is not a given opportunity. That person has to create it. That person has to make it happen. But the last person who came before the harvesting, to that person, he was the last, like you have locks today, number locks. In your briefcase, you have first number, then second number, the third number. For the first number, opportunity not given. For the last one, which is the final piece of it, it is given one. I hope I'm clear to you, and I'm giving you exact answers.
Yes, Professor San. Or otherwise, just correct me if I'm not wrong, that like Uber has come out with an idea, they have implemented, and then many, and in India, we have seen the Ola has followed almost the similar pattern. So do you think it will come under the opportunities for startups ready-made?
I am tempted to say yes, but I'll check my temptation, because otherwise you will scold me later on someday. Even if the business model is given to Ola, making the founding team and the execution team is not given to it. It has to do it by itself. If it does it, doing that one, then fine. If it doesn't do that, it will fail. So many people try to imitate the business model of many industries, many sectors. It is not uncommon, but not all of them succeed. Certain conditions are still needed of good management, good business acumen. So then that happens. That is my answer to this question.
Okay. Now you mentioned about the team. So my question to you is new venture team an opportunity or a challenge for founders?
Oh my God, yes, sir. Founding team is the most significant decision. It is as much by what you do as what you don't do, Mr. Goel. The beautiful thing is, in a statistics, allow me a little bit of liberty to mention some amount of sophisticated computation, mathematics, measurement here. If you wanted to discuss this topic, you had more than 2-3 people whom you could have invited today. Now, by inviting me, you shut the option to the two people, let us say if there are three experts. If I turn out to be the right choice, then you are making one kind of error in statistics. That is rejecting those who should have been rejected. But suppose I was the worst candidate and you called me today as expert. Then you have rejected whom you should not have rejected. This is another kind of error. So, making founding team decisions suffers with both the pivoting dangers. Selecting members for the founding team is a pivotal decision. Let me tell you, with every member who is just right for the founding team is a most pivotal action by the initial founder. Let there be no confusion about this one among anybody. And just because I'm offering this here on an open platform does not mean it does not have that level of value and importance which you found in exclusive advice. So that is the pivotal one, and you are very right. That is the most critical thing, and it suffers from both of the errors. Selecting a right one and rejecting the wrong ones is not an error. But not selecting the right one or rejecting the right one are errors.
Now, my last question. You have given all the state answers to all the state questions. My last question to you is, now we are talking of 90% and 10%. So what do the successful startup founders knows, which the other unsuccessful fail to know? So, or you can say, what is the main difference between the successful and unsuccessful founder?
I'm so happy you asked the easiest question for me at this point. Take a box and write on it, I know what I don't know. Every item in that one will be put by God, so to say, metaphorically speaking. Then take a second box and label, I know what I don't know. Every item in that box will be put by you, Mr. Goel, in the second box. Now, founders, successful one, have this one. They are modest with respect to the first one. Whether they are religious or not, whether they are spiritual or not, in their heart of hearts, they say a prayer equivalent that let the higher powers which I as an individual am subject to take care of the first box in favor of my business. This is difference number one. Difference number two is with respect to the second box. I know what I don't know, and this is where the successful ones don't spare any sweat of the brow, any effort. They don't leave any stone unturned in teaching themselves either alone by self-study or by finding a proper person to do this for them, whichever be their way of doing this one, or both of these together, they do this one. They don't live a pivotal lack of knowledge. Okay? Continue and harm the business just because they fall short of tapasya. So this tapasya is two-part. And this is what I find the fundamental difference between those and these.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. You have given the state answers to my state question, as you always did. And I'm sure that today's program is quite enlightening to all our viewers, and especially the youth who are intent to start a startup soon, that it is a tapasya. But anyone can do tapasya. Don't be disheartened. As Dr. Professor Saran very clearly says, if you are following the ethics, if your intentions are clear, and if your goal is clear, then no one can defeat you. Definitely you can join 10%. But if your intentions are bad, if you are cannot control your indriyas, and if you attempt to do some unethical works, then whatsoever your good idea or good financing, it will be joining 90%. So one has to be very, very clear. And the main thing is one should take the help of business incubators, all the consultants, those who are experts, all the mentors, because without their help, it is not easy to have the complete knowledge of the entire business model yourself. So it's a teamwork, and you require a good team, dedicated team, those who can deliver the goods in time, so that the investor will not lose their hard-earned money. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Caru News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarocar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day a new topic, and especially our intention is to enlighten the youth. And that's why we always bring those experts or the thought leaders, so that they can enlighten, they can give their views. If you have liked our program, or if you want any changes, or if you have any suggestions, please write in the inbox of any of our telecasting channel. We will definitely try to improve. And in case if you have some ideas to see that the program can be more useful, please send those ideas also. And if you want to be on the panel of our discussions, you can send also that in the inbox of any of the channel. So definitely we would like to take you up, because we feel that the media's responsibility is not only on the words as a fourth pillar, but it is real challenge for the media to see to it that our society to be enlightened in a proper and a positive way, so not only the particular home or the individual and the society, but the country and the entire world can be enlightened positively. Thank you very much. And today's program, as I already mentioned, live telecasted by many of the channels. Thank you, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. You have enlightened us, and I'm sure today's program will also be a milestone in our thought leadership series. And thank you all the viewers for watching our show. Thank you.